And I just wanted to bring this up. I don't even know if I have a question related to this topic, but I'm sure you guys saw the clip where Dillon Brooks, former Houston Rocket, I miss him dearly, and clips like this come out and I miss him more and more. He paid probably like $25K to be courtside under the basket. And the broadcast, beautiful job zooming in on Dillon Brooks, like sitting there, all smiles, clapping while LeBron is at the free throw line, just loving seeing his bitter rival LeBron James getting swept out of the playoffs. I know that it's petty. I know that it's maybe kind of tacky, but damn it, guys, I respect the commitment to fly out to this game and do this from Dillon Brooks. And I guess my question to you guys would be, would the league be more interesting if we had like 5 more players doing things like that?
I think he's taken a next step. Do I think this is the final one? No. I think there's
he's
a lot
22.
Yeah, there's a lot of maturity that he needs to do, and that'll come natural, like him throwing out elbow. I know everybody freaked out about that. To me, I'm old school. I'm like, I don't think that deserves a suspension.
Agreed.
He threw it. He got ejected. That's done. He did fall through. He should be gone. Him not pretending not to know what the rules are was hilarious. I do agree with Brian Windhorst. This guy has an analytical approach to the game like LeBron. So for him to be confused on how an ejection works is hilarious. But nevertheless, I do think that what concerns me is what concerns me at Joel Embiid, and that is big men. And that is this, I don't know what it is in 2026 and why.
I know there's been speculation about him going to another team or whatnot, but I think if he plays next year, it'll be in a Lakers uniform. I don't see him going anywhere else. And not just because of Bronny. I think he chose LA. He wants to be in LA. And I don't think he knows yet whether or not he's coming back next year or not. But he's a highly competitive dude, and I think this season looks like a bit of a disappointment because of the injuries. So, something in the back of his mind's got to be saying, like, if Luka's healthy, if Austin is fully healthy, if we build the right pieces around this, we could make some noise. So if I had to bet, I'd say I bet on him being back and he'll be in the Lakers.
Kitzer with you, the voice of NBA Jam. From top journalists and authors to rising influencers and insiders, Hoopsology brings you the voices driving basketball forward. With elite guests and sharp analysis, Matt, Justin, and Allan keep you plugged into everything hoops. From downtown, boom shakalaka.
I do want to give a shout out to subscribers who have been with us for years and new subscribers to the show. Really appreciate you all joining in on the conversation, the comments, the follows, sharing the show really helps us out. So thank you so much, as always, for your support. Keep staying tuned to our podcast feed or our YouTube channel or both for our next upcoming interviews. I think we've mentioned it on the show before, but if you guys haven't checked it out yet, we had Stephon Marbury on the show. So please go check that out. go check out Stephon Marbury, if nothing else. And it was a great conversation. You will not be disappointed. So without further ado, guys, it's been a little while. The first round was still going the last time we talked about playoff basketball here. So to sort of maybe sum things up or catch us up a little bit before we get into the main topics and what's going on right now in this moment, I just wanted to kind of go roundtable and see, what has kind of been striking you as at this point in the playoffs. What's kind of the big narrative, or what stands out to you the most as we start to exit the second round here? Justin, I'll start with you. Very open-ended. You can take this any direction you want, and it can be a short thing, or we can react to it for a little bit.
Yeah, me. I watch the media. That's always a prevailing interest, and I gotta say, according to the stat here, this year's playoffs, the first round is the most watched in 33 years. So people complaining about, I can't find the games, it's too confusing, it's on Amazon, it's on Peacock, it's on ESPN, I hate it. Well, the ratings are up. So I understand. Doesn't make those complaints not valid, but people are watching. So despite that. So it's averaging around 4 million viewers per game across ABC, ESPN, and Amazon Prime Video, and NBC and Peacock. And during this past season, the regular season averaged around 170 million people in the U.S. watched NBA games across all the platforms. That's the most in 24 years, an 86% increase from last season. So I think that is huge just in terms of, again, you go online, people hating on this deal, but I think it's been effective in terms of getting more eyes onto the product. So from a media perspective, that's what I am watching. I think another thing in terms of what's actually happening on the court is the New York Knicks. I just think people are questioning them, including myself. I'm just talking to Dexter. It was a little bit rocky against the Atlanta Hawks until they destroyed them when they closed them out. And then the next sweep, the Sixers, they're looking like a team that, could be promising. And honestly, it's a dramatic turn of events because it was kind of looking a little rocky there for Mike Brown. I was like, is this guy going to get fired in his first year with the Knicks? And all of a sudden now they're in a prime spot and they're looking like the favorite, whoever comes out of that matchup between the Cavaliers and Pistons. That's probably going on as we speak right now. So those are two prevailing thoughts that's going on to my mind. It's just the Knicks, their dominance in the second round, and then just the high TV ratings.
Right on. Justin, I'm wondering, as a follow-up to the TV ratings, do you think part of that is that now things are a little bit more condensed with playoff basketball? Like, for example, sometimes during the regular season, if a game said Peacock, I would have to pull up Peacock to get to that game. I couldn't watch it just on my local NBC affiliate, whereas now a lot of those games are on the major network NBC compared to what it was in the past. Because it seems like for me anyway, it's been easier to find the games, less resistance that way. And I don't even necessarily subscribe to that, aside from the League Pass stuff, that it's all that difficult to find these games.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because a lot of the games were specifically on NBA TV. So a lot of people didn't have NBA TV. Now they're on a streamer. And I've always been a proponent of streaming. Now it's gone a lot crazy with just the price increases. But as a viewer, it's great to, you're busy and you turn on a game and now all the streaming services do this where you can catch up with the key plays. I don't know, this makes you as a fan engaged immediately, even if you missed the first half, or you can just watch the game all over again. So I think with technology, that's really helped the fans in terms of, increasing that connection to the game, even if you missed it. I think there has been advantages to the streaming platform, even though the price continues to go up.
Yep, something to definitely keep an eye on as the playoffs continues, and very curious to see what the finals ratings will look like.
Agreed.
Especially if we have projected OKC or San Antonio, or really just about anyone in the West now that makes it is going to be small market. So curious to see how the finals looks with that. But Allan, I got to get you in here. Any thoughts on anything Justin mentioned, and or go ahead and give us your takeaways?
Yeah. I think we've seen a better product this year. I think that's helped as far as the TV presentation goes. I think the talking heads for Amazon and NBC are far superior to what ESPN had been trotting out the past few years. So I think that helps a lot. I'm excited to see how the rest of the playoffs fare, but it's always good to know that something that we all enjoy is being enjoyed by even more people. There's still a good shelf life there. One of the things that kind of struck me about the playoffs, and this isn't necessarily brand new this year, but it was more apparent this year. It used to be, as a coach, if you made the playoffs, that was like job security. And this year, and it kind of started last year with the Knicks and Tibbs, but really this year, I still feel like there are three coaches, I guess two coaches now, two coaches coaching right now who could be gone if things don't go their way. We just had a thing about Nick Nurse's job is safe for now, right? And I mean, they just did an upset against the Celtics and went to, played against a very hot New York team. Like, what are you talking about? Nick Nurse's job should be safe. It's really strikes me as weird how even if they don't get fired, I think we all agree that Redick is on the hot seat somewhat. I think Udoka was by many fans eyes on the hot seat. Now both of those guys likely retain Udoka for sure retains. Redick likely retains his job as well. But it's just really interesting that used to, I mean, I can't even imagine making the second round of the playoffs and having to be told that your job is safe. And that's not even talking about the mess that Thiago Splitter's in, which has nothing to do with performance and everything to do about money. So that's what's really struck me here. It's just the coaching profession's changed a little bit, but it seems like the teams that are most successful long term and over a long period of time tend to have continuity in that area and patience. There was Mark Daigneault was never on a hot seat, even when OKC was a high seed and lost their first time being back in the playoffs, right? Never even a whisper. Mitch Johnson is very secure. And he's a Pop disciple. Popovich was never on the hot seat. No matter how the team performed, because they wanted continuity and they wanted the coaching style. Steve Kerr was always going to either leave on his own or not. And so I know he's just signed the big 2-year extension. Those teams value continuity and they win. And it bugs me a little bit that you've got, Kenny Atkinson or JB Bickerstaff, could be gone if they lose this series. Jamal Mosley was gone after, the Magic lost. And that was a series, honestly, I thought whoever lost that series was going to lose their job. So it's really interesting. So that's been kind of the thing that's stood out to me so far.
Yeah, Allan, you bring up so many good points there. One thing that I would say is that, we all know the power and influence of coaches just continues to diminish, maybe in professional sports at large, but especially in the NBA. But I do think what you see and kind of what you speak towards, Allan, is that if you're a franchise that fires coaches very often, then you are probably a franchise where you are overreacting to headlines that you're reading on social media, maybe in old media as well, like newspaper. But I think it's pretty indicative of weak leadership if you are seeing a franchise. Now, I'm not saying coaches are infallible. There are cases where firings are warranted, sure. But if it's happening at a pretty frequent clip, there's something off with that front office and that leadership too. So I think that can be kind of a clear indicator for that. I'll go right into my takeaway. And it's really a tale of two basketballs is more apparent now. We have heard kind of that old adage for a long time now, you guys, with, playoff basketball is going to be more intense, more difficult than regular season basketball. This year, if you compare it, the average per team point per game average for the regular season is over 115 points per game. So as we've talked about the past few seasons, very offensive friendly league, 3-point era, etc. All that applies. You go to the postseason now, and this is just through the first round. The points per game average per team dropped by nearly 10 points per game at just over 106 points per game. So you have seen things happen that indicate the actual importance of defense, and therefore also the importance of officiating, depending on how that is going to go, as to what happens in the playoffs. And it really is a drastically more intense and different game. So you see a team that's very offensive heavy, like the Celtics, for example. They were a little more offensive heavy this year, still had pretty good switchability and things like that, some good defenders on the team, but you live by the three-point shot, you die by the three-point shot was the case for them. You see a team like the Rockets that could lean on their defense and rebounding and kind of mediocre to poor offense during the regular season, and then that defensive pressure gets turned up a notch on them. Credit to the Lakers for scheming really well against them, and their offense was not effective at all in the postseason. And many other examples that I won't get into, but I do think it ties in with the ratings going up, that you can feel the increased intensity in this game, and that the defense, despite maybe some questionable officiating, a little more physicality is being allowed, and that points per game average getting closer to that 100 points per game mark at just over, again, 106 points per game. Speaks to, we have regular season basketball and then we have postseason basketball. And if you want to have success in the playoffs, you better have some skills on that defensive side.
No, totally agree. I dig the competitiveness of the playoffs. I just wish with blowouts, teams are not getting destroyed by 40 or 50 points. I've talked to Megan McPeak about this. She's a play-by-play commentator for USA Sports, covering the WNBA. I asked her about it, and I think she was more on the side of it's just a natural evolution of the game, and there's just more 3-point shots, and that's leading to the elevated blowouts. But I don't know. A team getting stomped by 50 points in a closeout game, I just find unacceptable. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school. I can't comprehend that. So I just hope that there's games that are not competitive, that at least, it stays within that 30 to 15 to 30 point range of a blowout, because I think that hurts the credibility of a series when the game's over in the first quarter. When a team's up by that much, I think that damages. Why are you going to watch this when a team is annihilating the other team? That's not entertaining. So hopefully the super blowouts, I think that stops. And to Allan's point real quick, too, with the coaches on the hot seat, I would add David Adelman to that, too, of the Nuggets. They were not happy with
he got a lot of flack.
Yeah, he took a lot of heat for that. So, especially with Mike Malone in terms of just his coaching style, a lot of the media here were not happy with David Adelman. I think he might be on the hot seat as well. People are talking about the future of Jokic here, and just this whole thing with him and Jamal Murray. How's that going to work? And they had a lot of confidence going into this season, especially in media day, and for them to get bounced in the first round like that. I think, and especially Jokic, I would say playing subpar for his standards. We love talking about Jokic here, but I thought he underperformed. I think Adelman might be on the hot seat as well.
Yeah, and let's see how Denver's front office reacts, because the reality is Jokic has patched up a lot of flaws that front office has had and some of the poor moves they've made. Another thing to look at is that Christian Brown contract, which is really, when you look at what he did in the playoffs, he needs to have a great offseason of training to live up to the money that they're giving out to him. You can't really handcuff yourself with too many bad contracts, and that is something that the Nuggets have done over the years. They were able to move off of Michael Porter Jr., of course, and he actually kind of played to the level of his contract in Brooklyn, but we all know what was going on in Brooklyn too. We'll be curious to see if Denver and the moves that they've made, including in their front office, if they can do some problem solving and figure out, because this team is potentially at a crossroads. We can talk about that more in a bit. Do you guys have any other roundtable topics you want to bring up before we move into kind of our main list here?
No, I'm good.
Right on. Let's press right forward then. We had an NBA legend, love him or hate him, get swept out of the playoffs recently. Granted, he was without his really the best player on his team, Luka Doncic, and he was facing the odds-on favorites to be NBA champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder, of course. So not too much of a surprise here, but this is a year where LeBron could have some movement in the offseason. I think some of that maybe is up in the air because Bronny is also in a Lakers uniform as we speak. But guys, I just wanted to openly ask, LeBron had his post-game press conference. Lakers are eliminated if you have been under a rock. And he kind of said the same sorts of things he said in years past that, hey, I'm going to go home. This is fresh. I'm going to spend some time with my family and then decide on next steps. Curious if you guys have any sort of just inclination, intuition about what LeBron's next move is going to be. Allan, I'll go ahead and lead with you this time around.
Yeah, I know there's been speculation about him going to another team or whatnot, but I think if he plays next year, it'll be in a Lakers uniform. I don't see him going anywhere else, and not just because of Bronny. I think he chose LA. He wants to be in LA. And I don't think he knows yet whether or not he's coming back next year or not. But he's a highly competitive dude, and I think this season looks like a bit of a disappointment because of the injuries. And so, something in the back of his mind's got to be saying, like, if Luka's healthy, if Austin is fully healthy, if we build the right pieces around this, we could make some noise. So I if I had to bet, I'd say I bet on him being back and he'll be in the Lakers uniform.
That is fascinating because I don't know if the feeling is mutual between him and Lakers management having him return. I guess a lot of that you're talking, what is the money going to look like in that breakdown? So we might circle back on that. But Justin, I'll go to you. What are you thinking as far as the future for LeBron? Is it, is it really unlikely, like it seems, that he's going to go out on that note, kind of being swept in the playoffs this way?
Yeah. I heard a lot of conjecture he doesn't want the retirement tour. I don't really buy that, especially with his ego.
Yeah.
Like, for him just to retire just in his off season, I just be supremely shocked. I'm with Allan. I think he stays at least until Bryce gets into the league. I mean, you wanted to play with Bronny. Bryce redshirted at Arizona, so I'm sure there's just a few years. And, I mean, you know how it went down with Bronny, so I'm sure with Bryce he can get into the league somehow and, pull that off and playing with both his sons. I think that's pretty realistic to me. So I would say at least he's got 2 more years. I would say worst case scenario. But you're right, man. I mean, that's on LeBron's side if things go well. I mean, it takes 2 to tango. So you're exactly correct in terms of we talked to so many journalists that it's been a rocky relationship, and you could see the Lakers want to break up with him. If this is a romantic relationship, I would say the Lakers are probably looking for separation at this point. Considering everything that's gone down. But we'll see. The thing is, do they have the guts to do it? I mean, that's a pretty gutsy move to get rid of LeBron, not give him what he wants. Considering if you do that, that's a big chunk of their future, of their immediate future within the next couple of years. And again, he made the Lakers relevant when Luka was gone. So if they do decide to part ways and Luka gets hurt, I mean, this is a terrible basketball team. I mean, without those 2 on there, as good as Austin Reeves is. So, I mean, that's going to be a gutsy decision if they want to move from LeBron, putting everything on Luka. It's a bold move.
Oh, I think if they want to be in the hunt for titles, that's what they have to do, though. And maybe that's discussion for another time.
Yeah.
But they can do a lot with that, 50 plus million that LeBron is making to bring in pieces around Luka and potentially Austin Reeves. That's another factor here, is that the Lakers are going to have to decide if they want to pay full money that Austin Reeves is eligible for his extension. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason in LA. I am actually betting on LeBron moving to a different team. I think if he goes to Cleveland, that's when we all kind of know maybe that the retirement tour is signaled, because that just seems like the perfect indicator that the story's coming to close. There have been rumors constantly about joining the Warriors. I don't know if I buy that. I kind of think it's Cleveland or potentially staying in LA if he's willing to do it for less money. It's hard for me to imagine LeBron taking a super significant pay cut. So I guess we'll see what'll happen. I think we all three agree that LeBron's coming back next season.
Yeah, the Warriors are an interesting piece because, and I guess Cleveland for that matter too, because if he went to championship with another team, I mean that's something that really sets him apart from every other great player. So maybe it's a challenge for him, right, to join the Warriors or the Cavaliers. And, well, he wouldn't be the Cavaliers because he's already won with them. So it would have to be the Warriors or some other team that's close to a championship, and bring one home. And 4 different franchises, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, I think maybe it's equally impressive if and maybe more so if he goes back to Cleveland, like 2 long breaks away from Cleveland and he won 2 titles for Cleveland. That would be, I certainly wouldn't project that happening even if he joined Cleveland at this point. But if it did happen, I mean, that's the ideal way he could exit the league and retire from the sport. I mean, with a title in Cleveland, I certainly, again, wouldn't predict that happening. I don't even know that pulls the Cavaliers into greater contention. But, man, on his side of things, if it worked out that way, you might as well retire at that point because you've done so much. But, Justin, another thing you kind of alluded to that I agree with is, LeBron's play for a long time in terms of elevating his greatness and his legacy has been the longevity and just purely how long he's been in the league. So, I could see us having this conversation once again next offseason too, is certainly a possibility. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Justin, any other thoughts on LeBron?
Yeah, just curious, what is he chasing other than playing with his, other son? What is motivating him? Because considering he has all the titles in, I mean, let's face it. I mean, we've talked about it since we began, rebooted Hoopsology. There's been the ghost of Michael Jordan. I mean, it's weird because he's still alive, but yet I think there's he's this ominous presence over the league, and it's a huge presence on LeBron's career. That if LeBron does win another title, for a lot of people, including myself, that's not going to change my mind in terms of, as long as I've been alive, who's the greatest player. I mean, we talked to Sam Smith. I mean, he's more indicative in terms of judging who's the greatest player of all time, seeing them all. But other than that, it's just going to be hard-pressed to really change his legacy too much, just in terms of even if he wins another championship, I think it'd be pretty impressive. But I just think Jordan will forever, unless somebody just surpasses that feat of the 6 titles with, one team like that, 2, 3-peats, and just the way he meant to the league as well. It's just really hard to supplant that. So I'm just curious what his overall motivation is in terms of his age and what he wants to do after basketball.
Yeah. Any speculations on that, Allan?
Yeah, I don't. That's a great question, Justin, because I don't know what is he chasing at this point. I mean, he'd need 3 more championships to eclipse Michael. And that's not happening. So what is the motivation other than playing with the Suns? And I I mean, he's never struck me necessarily as like a baller, like a Kevin Durant, who I think will just keep playing until his legs, don't work anymore. There's some people who you can tell just play because they love it. And LeBron has always seemed like, I know he has joy in the game, but he always is very focused on like a business-like attitude towards it. And
Yep.
so what is he playing for then, if not for love of the game and, not to play with his sons? What other legacies are there for him to grab and accomplish? So, yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, it's a great question. I don't know the answer. I don't even know if he knows
I think
it.
you're on something there. Yeah, I think you're on something there, Alan, and I think the answer could be potentially, just to speculate and, call me maybe a little cynical or something, but, a lot of LeBron's power and influence will go away once he is retired from the league. Not to say he can't do other things. I'm sure he can do just about anything he wants. I'm not sure he would want to really go the media route. He seems like such a legend that he might be above that. But you never know. Some might have thought Shaq would have been that way too. And of course he's a media darling. But I think LeBron staying in the league longer, he gets to keep that power and influence over the league itself. Let's be honest, that he's had for well over a decade now. You could argue over 2 decades at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think ownership might be in his future. I think those rumors are true, especially with the expansion with that Las Vegas team. I think that is in his purview within the next few years. And I have to say, Alan brought up, LeBron's, relationship with the game being more business-like, which I think there's a lot of credence to that. But I don't know. He has that podcast, or he did. I think it's still going on with Steve Nash, just talking about just different aspects of basketball. I mean, he doesn't have to do that. I mean, they're talking pretty in-depth, nerdy stuff about the game of basketball. I think he does love the game. I think he really does in terms of just the psychological aspect. There's different things that like people don't see. I enjoy them actually getting into the weeds of certain things that you necessarily don't even see with different coverage that's on the major networks. They really get into it. So I think LeBron does have that love for the game, even when he was doing the podcast with JJ Redick. But I feel you, Alan. At least it's kind of one of those things. While he's like playing with the Lakers, I think that's where that business attitude comes out, where it kind of overshadows kind of his love. Sometimes it's more of a just, I don't know. It's kind of like there's only one boss on the team. That should be JJ Redick. He is the coach. But I feel like that's conflicting sometimes with, LeBron's vision of what the Lakers want to be. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see. But my guess is that with all of his entertainment endeavors, I think he has kind of a, we've seen Jordan do this. Magic Johnson's infamous doing this. Shaquille O'Neal that Matt brought up. I think he's going to be involved with a lot of business endeavors after he retires.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Justin, about his love for the game. I think it was a lot more evident when he was younger, and I think his longevity has worked against him here. The joy of youth has been replaced with the cynicism of age, like it does to all of us.
Yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, that's well said. So guys, to kind of tack on with this Lakers Thunder series, just really quickly, I think we saw in Game 4 maybe the greatest troll job in the modern NBA era, and I just wanted to bring this up. I don't even know if I have a question related to this topic, but I'm sure you guys saw the clip where Dillon Brooks, former Houston Rocket, I miss him dearly, and clips like this come out and I miss him more and more. He paid probably like $25K to be courtside under the basket And the broadcast, beautiful job zooming in on Dillon Brooks, like sitting there, all smiles, clapping while LeBron is at the free throw line, just loving seeing his bitter rival LeBron James getting swept out of the playoffs. I know that it's petty. I know that it's maybe kind of tacky, but damn it, guys, I respect the commitment to fly out to this game and do this from Dillon Brooks. And I guess my question to you guys would be, would the league be more interesting if we had like 5 more players doing things like this? Because it seems to me like Dillon Brooks is really in a league of his own. Allan, what do you think? If we had like 5 more players, let's say, doing stuff like this, do we have a better league overall?
I think it'd be more fun. I mean, for a minute, I thought maybe he was going to tap in for one of the OKC players and just come out there on the court, like a little pro wrestling style. Did you also notice he was wearing what I can only assume is one of those Paul Wall grills that Paul Wall gave to everybody about a year ago in Houston? So he was wearing he was wearing the grill.
Incredible.
The lights hitting it, He's
incredible.
He's smiling and laughing. I loved it. I thought it was just, and then his comments this morning, he was like, I think he's got one more left in him, talking about LeBron's future. I mean, it's so, Dillon does not give up on the shtick at all. He plays his role. He plays his part. Still, I think he's probably one of the great teammates of this era, a guy that you love to have on your team, unless you're throwing him under the bus. But, in most cases, teams love having him on their team. And the fact that he just did that, I found it hilarious. If we had more people doing that kind of thing, I think it would just be really funny and, compelling drama.
Well, and continue to look at what happens in Memphis since his departure, and that was now several years ago. But man, he was some sort of glue back in Memphis, and kind of one of those moves with how much they threw him under the bus, as you alluded to there, Allan, that I have questions about Memphis's front office after that whole debacle. Granted, there's a lot more going on there that we won't get into right now, but Justin, just your thoughts on Dillon Brooks, or my question, or otherwise.
Yeah. No, I agree with Allan. I think to your question, I just think because of AAU, a lot of these basketball circuits, all these players know each other at an early age. They're teammates, they're friends with each other. Like, that rivalry is just gone. If you're in a top 100, you probably played against a bunch of these guys. And they probably have been your teammates. They're your friends. So you can have that rivalry on the court, but they're still your homie afterwards, even if you want to kill each other. That's just not the same compared to Dillon Brooks, where he hates LeBron. So it's just, it kind of makes me, despite his, personal life, I'm meaning on professionally only, Dennis Rodman. What an enigma that guy was, just in terms of everything he was able to do. And then just like, if you see him on The Last Dance, it really, just from a on the court perspective, and then just his other entertainment endeavors, just a one of one. And kind of like, you just appreciate it more seeing, Dillon Brooks or even a Draymond is just like, it's not the same compared to what the Worm was back in kind of the 80s and 90s. But, I think, even a Draymond and Dillon Brooks is going to be a thing of the past. I just think these guys they like each other too much. I don't think that's going to hurt the competitiveness. We've talked about it in terms of the quality of playoff basketball. I don't think that's going to matter. But getting just those villains that just, want to be hated, it's just... everybody's on social media. Everybody wants to be liked. Everybody has their entourage, and no one wants to ruffle any feathers. It's just, you don't have, these characters anymore willing to go out on a limb, So I think he's probably the last of a dying era of NBA players.
And that's kind of what I wrote in the line of this topic, right? I kind of put Dillon the final villain, Brooks, even though he's well known as Dillon the villain. But man, to me, it's just so opportune now. It's such a smart zag, and Dillon Brooks has just entirely dominated the market need for a villain, and he's chosen that lane. I don't know if he really dislikes LeBron as much as he lets on, or if it's part of like sort of showmanship here. But either way, it is smart, I think, and it's good for business. And he's not like trying to hurt anyone or anything like that. So it's odd. You bring up Draymond, and with their clash back in 2016, and Draymond being suspended, in part maybe because of some LeBron acting on that whole flagrant foul that went down and all that. I mean, there's prime content there for Draymond to be what Dillon Brooks is against LeBron, and yet Draymond just loves him some LeBron James. If you ever hear him talk about LeBron these days, especially now that they're not dueling anymore in the postseason with each other, he just has nothing but respect and love for LeBron, which, hey, that's okay that you chose that. But man, in some ways it feels like a missed opportunity in the villain lane there from Draymond, but to each their own.
They got to hang out in the same social circles.
Yeah.
That's just the thing. They got the same agents. They want the same business opportunities. I mean, it's just it's all interwoven together where there's just a lot more separation. Back in the day, you just played against the guy and that was it. Or you might be in, Space Jam, or do a Pepsi commercial. But now they'll have the same representation. They're just all intertwined together. I mean, you see Anthony Davis, he has his, prank show on TBS. I mean, he's just pranking people. I mean, they're just all interwoven and creating their own content at this point. So.
Well, please, we need a couple more villains to step up. I hope Dillon is not actually the final villain that we see in the NBA, but a tip of the cap to you, good sir, and the trolling job that you did there in Game 4. Outstanding work. So really, kind of the main thing maybe, aside from some of the things we mentioned in our roundtable, or maybe even ascended above it now at this point, is we're getting playoff minutes for Wemby this year. So I just want to talk about that for a quick second. Are you impressed with what you've seen from Wemby? And do you feel like there is like a legitimate step or level up being made for him? Or do you kind of just think this is a factor of Wemby getting to the playoffs? And any other Wemby thoughts you want to share? Justin, I'll lead off with you.
Yeah, I think he's taken a next step. Do I think this is the final one? No. I think there's
he's
a lot
22.
There's a lot of maturity that he needs to do, and that'll come natural, like him throwing that elbow. I know everybody freaked out about that. To me, I'm old school. I'm like, I don't think that deserves a suspension.
Agreed.
He threw it. He got ejected. That's done. He did fall through. He should be gone. Him not pretending not to know what the rules are was hilarious. I do agree with Brian Windhorst. This guy has an analytical approach to the game like LeBron. So for him to be confused on how an ejection works is hilarious. But nevertheless, I do think that what concerns me is what concerns me at Joel Embiid, and that is big men. And that is this, I don't know what it is in 2026 and why, I don't know, this is a totally unscientific analysis. And the good news is that with Jokic, he has stayed relatively healthy despite his size. But, however, Jokic, I feel how do I put this? I don't think he's very economical with the energy that he uses. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I don't think, compared to like Derrick Rose, where I felt like everything was such 100%, everything was full throttle, everything was, even when he took shots, he would go for a layup, if he dunked, he was using 100% energy, whereas I think Jokic was a lot more economical. I just hope Victor is on the Jokic end of using energy, and that, I worry in terms of how injuries are going to affect him, because that has dramatically affected Joel Embiid's career. And so I think in terms of Wembanyama being a force and a Shaq level threat, a Jokic level threat, a Tim Duncan level threat in terms of a big man, I think injuries is really going to be the only thing that's going to hold this guy back, because what he can do on the floor is incredible. And I think once he hits his prime, and I think if I'm the rest of the league, I'd be praying this guy gets hurt, because if he stays healthy, there's no one that can stop him. He's going to make the right play every time. I mean, he can shoot, he can put it on, he can run the offense. I mean, he's dominant defensively. I just think he's just going to be just too much to stop. He'd stop. I think there's a Shaq level future in terms of when he was in LA, when he was just unstoppable. I think he has that in him. I just think the injuries is what worries me, and him, taking a lot of threes, him being at the top of the key, working his way into the paint sometimes concerns me, just in terms of his longevity. But, other than that, I think he's on his way, and, depending on what happens within the playoffs, if he stays in it longer, that's only going to benefit in terms of the experience that he's going to gain in terms of how it's going to play into, the future with him.
Allan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Justin. I think it's definitely a next step. I still don't think he's entirely consistent yet, but again, he's 22. That's going to be his big leap when he consistently is dropping like 30 and 20. I used to be really concerned with his injuries, but as I kind of looked at him, Embiid was injured before he even made it to the NBA. And guys like Greg Oden, et cetera, those guys, Yao Ming, those guys had foot injuries and what you call like big man injuries. Wemby missed time because of a blood clot, which is concerning because you never want that to come back. But that's not a soft tissue injury. That's not a wear and tear injury. That's like a freak thing. And so I will always be concerned with the big man injuries, particularly one with a slight frame like him. And we've seen that play out with Chet Holmgren, who has missed significant time his first few seasons as well. But I don't think he's going to be an Embiid situation. I think he just has to become a little more consistent, but it has been a joy to watch him in the playoffs. I'll just say that. His ascension is coming. Justin, I agree with you 100%. I don't think he's even scratched his potential yet. And the better his team around him gets, the better he will get. So I think that the Spurs have a pretty bright future, which I hate saying. But, yeah. Matt, what do you think?
Well said. There's a lot there. I think in terms of his learning and his growth, this series in itself against Minnesota, there's a picture you can paint there, seeing how game one went. I'm sure you guys remember. He breaks the playoff blocks record, but Justin, to your point about energy, he uses so much of it that offensively, he kind of took them out of that game. May have cost them that game one that gave Minnesota that upset. Game three, they're back in Minnesota. He had a better game two. They got the win there. Game three, you kind of see a moment where he feels like he's at the peak of his powers from what we've seen so far, meaning that he's playing defense, he's doing all the things we've done, and he's efficient from the floor. He was like 3 for 5 from deep. It seems like when he's got his three-point shot going like that, he's just a nightmare. He's a nightmare with his height and ability alone, but man, when he's got that outside shot going, good luck. So And then, of course, most recently, San Antonio took the lead in that series. He was great in Game 5 as well. So I think this series here is proof positive that I think a level up happened that kind of only happens when you're put in that trial under the fire of the playoffs. So he's going through that right now, and the sky's the limit, you guys. I really don't think it's hyperbole to say that he has the second best shot of any team, he and the Spurs, of winning the title this year. And he's 22 years old. That's earlier than many of the greats have gotten that done. So Justin, to your point about like how he's going to look when he even hits his prime and those kinds of things, it's pretty interesting to think about. And we could see a certain level of dominance there that we haven't seen in quite some time in the NBA. I mean, you could say Warriors maybe, but we could be talking like a level even beyond that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I just think he has the coolness factor, and I do think we talk about the face of the league discussion that's come up. I do think if he's somehow wins the title, I think he surpasses SGA, Luka. Steph and LeBron are about to retire. Kevin Durant's gone. I think easily he's the face of the league. I mean, he just has the coolness factor. Just the way he looks, like he has a very unusual body. The way he plays, like the only thing that he doesn't have with Steph is Steph just has that just relatability that you brought up, Matt, in terms of just that 3-point shot. But he's just cool to watch. Like
and he cares. He's intense.
Cares. Yes, but
that's so important.
But he's relatable too, where his personality shows. Whereas the other guys, I mean, SGA from a personality standpoint, he's pretty bland. Cade Cunningham, he's bland. Like when I see Victor, like he threw that elbow. Him dapping up the guys in the sideline. He's just interesting to watch. Whereas the other guys, they're just boring besides how they play on the court. I think that matters. Steph had that and that likability factor. All the taunts he would do. I mean, he was just really compelling. Wemby has that. And I think, again, if he wins the title, I mean, he surpasses Anthony Edwards easily. Get him out of here. Like, easily he's the face of the league if he wins the title.
He reminds me of a young Kareem, who was also super dominant, unlike anything anyone had ever seen when he came out of UCLA.
Yep.
And won a title within his first, 3 or 4 seasons, won an MVPs, multiple MVPs in his first few seasons. I mean, and he's a better defender than Kareem ever was. So I think, but, I hate bringing up the Kareem stuff, but, he spent the summer studying like Shaolin temples. I mean, that's a very Kareem Abdul-Jabbar kind of thing to do. I could see him, Wemby wanting to be in a Bruce Lee film. It's just, to your point, I think he's a very interesting guy, and he's not afraid to be interesting, whereas everyone else is so worried about their marketing and their brand, and he seems like his brand is that he's the most interesting basketball player in the world. I'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
Well said. And to your point about injury concerns, that's obviously that's kind of top at the list of the Wemby discussion still, because everyone kind of sees that like, yeah, the only thing stopping him right now is his health. If he does, have, God forbid, injury history that builds up. What I would worry about, and I'm perhaps no expert, but I do have a background in strength and conditioning. If I hear over the course of an off season or something like that, oh, Wemby put on 20 pounds this off season, like say he trains really hard and bulking up, that's where I am going to be a little bit worried. I do think he needs to kind of, along the lines of Kareem. Kareem always, of course, very tall, but very kind of lanky, slim, that sort of build that a lot of NBA centers were. Bill Russell had a similar build, not quite as tall as Kareem, but kind of that Stretch Armstrong, kind of long, lanky sort of look. Wemby's going to be long and lanky no matter what, but I think that's the best way to protect his joints is just to stay lean, stay light. I think back to when Anthony Davis put on like 15 to 20 pounds in an offseason preparing to play center for the Lakers, and he comes back, and I know he has an injury track record a lot longer than Wemby's too, but all of a sudden he got back issues that he hadn't dealt with prior to that, and it was a huge setback for him. And I think, hindsight being 2020, it was a big mistake in the way that he handled his conditioning and maybe the way that his training staff advised him to go in preparing for that center role. So that would be kind of what I would hope to see from Wemby. Is you don't need to be a mass monster. You don't need to turn into Shaq. You've already got such an advantage over people. Just continue to go with it. Not to say you're not going to get stronger or like put on a little bit more muscle, those kinds of things, but like gaining weight on the scale, I guess, would be a big concern for me when looking at Wemby. So I'll stop rambling. Guys, we got 2 series I want to discuss that seem to presumptively be coming up. Now, we are making a little bit of assumption, or I am anyway, in introducing this, presuming that San Antonio is going to win one more game in this series to beat the Timberwolves. We can have a different discussion if the Timberwolves pull off the upset here, but I'm assuming you guys probably agree with me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the real NBA finals are in the Western Conference Finals this year. This is one of those types of seasons, and San Antonio versus OKC is going to be the most outstanding series maybe that we get in the playoffs. A season rivalry kind of established this year was one of the big storylines as we went through, especially the opening couple months of the season. So I'm just curious, how much of a chance are you guys giving San Antonio in this? We know that OKC are the odds-on favorites to win the title, have been really all year long. They have great depth. They have great athleticism. They have a lot of pieces that they can throw at anyone they face. Allan, I'll go with you. What chance are you giving San Antonio, and would you even be so bold as to pick them against OKC?
I think they've got a really good shot, to be honest. And part of that is that I don't think OKC's been challenged. But the team that gave them the most trouble during the regular season was the Spurs. I think the advantages that OKC has with that bench strength, I actually think San Antonio's got similar advantages. I mean, they're bringing Keldon Johnson off the bench. Carter Bryant has really turned into a playoff riser. Dillon Harper is is good for, I don't know, he's still young, obviously, but he's good for about half the games to have a really awesome game and the other ones to not be horrible. You've got De'Aaron Fox, who's a former clutch player of the year. And I don't know. I'm a little high on San Antonio. I think OKC in the playoffs last year was vulnerable to certain teams and went several 7-game series, and that hasn't happened this year. They just haven't been challenged that way. That being said, OKC is just so good. I mean, again, you could take half that team and you'd create another top contender if you split that team into 2 teams. But I think they have a good chance for sure. I think it'll be a great series. A really, really great series.
Let me bring this in too before I throw it to you, Justin. Think about who these teams just faced as well. The OKC, they may have a little bit more of that needing to switch gears and or even just kind of wake up and get back into the playoffs, because the Lakers, let's be real, not much of a challenge. I think what San Antonio is going through Minnesota right now, they're more of a defense that is going to kind of beat you up, I would say, like not literally, of course, but a little more physicality, like going through Rudy Gobert and what Minnesota brings to the table. A very good defensive team in their own right, maybe not as athletic as the Oklahoma City Thunder, maybe not as great as switching or like as quick as switching as the Thunder are, but I think their defense is kind of designed to bruise you up, so it may almost feel like a little bit of a relief to play a team that is just a little bit faster rather than a team that's going to push you around a whole heck of a lot like the Timberwolves can. So I wonder too if San Antonio like takes game one just coming into this so ready and we have like a little adjustment. Allan, you're absolutely right that despite OKC's dominance in the regular season last season, and certainly this season to an extent, but last season they were also pretty clunky going through the playoffs, and it felt like they kind of had to get used to their opponent in each of the series, and then they eventually got it done, but certainly not as convincing as they were in the regular season. Again, maybe a tale of two different basketballs being played there. But Justin, I got to get you in on this too. How are you feeling about OKC San Antonio, just that being the presumptive matchup in the West?
Yeah, not too much to add. I will say this year it's tough because the Thunder have looked so dominant with 2 sweeps, and it's really hard to pick against them, against the Spurs. However, I know, Mark Cuban brought up like intangibles still don't matter. What's on the court 100% does. Other things don't. But I disagree to a little bit of an extent that, they're trying to defend the title. And I think they're facing a very formidable Spurs team. Now, I'm going to favor the Thunder. But I honestly don't buy this as the finals. I kind of disagree with you, Matt. If the Knicks,
that's fine.
That's if the Knicks make it to the finals. I just think if the Knicks make it to the NBA Finals, the media frenzy and them playing in Madison Square Garden, Game 1, that is going to be different. That's going to be a different experience. And that's not Game 1, but I guess Game 3. The OKC will have home court. So Game 3, when that happens, that's going to be astronomical sports event. I mean, I'm trying to think, it takes place June 3rd. I think the World Cup's a little bit after that, right? So, I mean, that's going to be the biggest sporting event in America, easily, if the Knicks are in the NBA Finals. And we're going to see if the Thunder can handle that or not. I mean, I do like their approach. They're pretty nonchalant, but I would say, remember last year, everybody counted out the Pacers. They're going to sweep the Pacers. They suck, and look what happened with them. They took them to the limit, and Tyrese Halliburton got hurt, and they almost pulled it off. So I would say just because they're in the finals, that I would not give them an automatic title, especially if the Knicks are in there. To me, we'll get to the later topic, but if there's other teams, then we'll discuss that. But if the Knicks make it to the NBA Finals, all bets are off. I just think that's just going to be a sports television event, just because, rightly or wrongly, that's just going to attract a lot of casual fans, and there's a lot of unusual media attention that I think the Thunder didn't experience last year, when, let's face it, your casual audience didn't really care, just because we care, your basketball fans care, but the amount of pressure I don't think was really there, just considering who was in the NBA Finals. If the Knicks are in there, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting chess match. One thing I would be very curious to see, like, let's say it were OKC versus New York. Boy, they got to figure out how to score without leaning on Jalen Brunson so
Agreed.
much, because that's something that OKC has. At least like 4 pieces in their starting lineup, maybe all 5, that they can throw at Jalen Brunson to give him a really, really hard time. Sometimes it feels like that Knicks team is just dead on arrival if they can't get a rhythm through Jalen Brunson. Now we'll see what happens. I love rooting for Jalen Brunson. I love watching him play. I definitely am of the opinion that Spurs OKC is the highest basketball we're going to see this postseason. But, I always want the highest level to be in the postseason. So part of me definitely hopes you're correct there, Justin. Speaking of the Eastern Conference, let's talk about that real quick, you guys. We've got basically 3 players in now. Justin, you mentioned the Knicks sweeping the Sixers. Poor Sixers. I think they gave everything they had getting through the Celtics, and then the wheels just kind of came off. So kudos to them, I guess, for finally beating that team in the playoffs. I think it was the first time since 1982, if I'm not mistaken, that the 76ers beat the Celtics in a postseason series. So that pretty incredible. At the same time, yeah, you were swept in the second round, so that's unfortunate. But moving forward, if we get a Knicks versus Pistons or Knicks versus Cavs, because that series is a little bit deadlocked right now, I presume the Pistons are going to once again kind of figure it out and get through it like they barely did against the Magic. But whatever way you guys want to take it, Allan, I'll start with you. I mean, who are you seeing as having an advantage if we get like Pistons Knicks or Cavs Knicks?
Knicks, and I'm
regardless of.
Yeah, I think Justin and I are simpatico here because I actually think the Knicks have a good chance of winning the finals for the first time in over 50 years. And not to freak out all the Knicks fans out there, but there's just something about this team. I know that sometimes they're not the most consistent, but when it is on, their defense is still really good, but their offense, they didn't play great defense when they beat these teams in closeout games by 40 and 50 points. It was their offense that was just demoralizing. I think the Knicks have a really good shot here, and hopefully they can do it. I am probably rooting for the Knicks for this postseason now. So I think there's just like a aura, a vibe. The vibes are immaculate with the Knicks right now.
Awesome, Allan. Let me ask you then. Just to get this out of the way too, who do you think is advancing to be the Knicks' opponent? With that series pretty deadlocked between the Pistons and the Cavs.
I think it's going to be the Cavs.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of an experience factor there, I think. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. Justin, who do you think? I assume. I mean, I know you've been high on the Knicks this episode. So presuming you feel probably the same way Allan does about them advancing.
Yeah, totally. To your question about the Cavaliers and Pistons, I have a slight edge towards Detroit, but not by much. I mean, right now the Cavaliers are up by 4, so I think they're pretty evenly matched. I think this series might go 7. So that even helps the Knicks even more. They get more rest. But it could play into their detriment. We've seen teams that they keep playing and they just have that momentum. The Knicks have been sitting there and they have to kind of reboot, all that energy. So, the longer the series goes, I mean, we've seen teams react in different ways. So I think that would be a concern. But I got Detroit, but again, I think it's really close. But yeah, I think the Knicks, I don't know, they got like the team of destiny going for them. I gotta say, with the Sixers, it's Philly. They brag about their fans. I think you gotta be disappointed with your fans. They have to have the Knicks make that much noise. I watched a lot of that game. It was like a Knicks home game. And I realize, Philly, how close it is to New York, but you're supposed to be this big, bad sports town, and you're supposed to, you claim to be the best fans, and you let New York just trample all over your home court like that in a closeout game. I mean, even, earlier on, they were making more noise. I mean, that's just inexcusable. So, from that aspect, I'm like, I don't want to hear Sixers fans say they're the best fans when, I don't know, the Knicks are clearly, more into that game than you are. So, yeah, I think I agree with Allan. I think the Knicks have a special X factor going on. However, we'll see how they react to this long layoff, and it could be fairly long. I mean, if this series continues to go all the way. So I think that would be a concern. I think another concern is Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, he's up, he's down. I think, Allan, you mentioned it in terms of inconsistency. I think they kind of go where he goes. I wonder if he plays badly, can they overcome that? And I guess, especially against OKC. I mean, I'm going to give him a big puncher's chance, but if Karl Anthony Towns has a terrible series, I mean, OKC's going to annihilate them. So, I mean, he has to play well. So we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a big, big series for him. I mean, especially if they do make it to the NBA Finals. He does not play well. I mean, people already kind of hate on him. I mean, it's just, he's a very polarizing player. But, I mean, he does not, play well. I mean, this is going to stick with him, rightly or wrongly.
I'm going to try my best to zag here before we get out of here for the episode. I think the team that has a puncher's chance against the Knicks is the Detroit Pistons. And my reason being the Knicks, it's been a little bit of like firepower versus firepower on the offensive side of things. Atlanta gave them a little bit of trouble in the early stages because Atlanta can play some defense. Detroit is kind of like a more talented Atlanta in some ways, especially since they have Cade Cunningham. Now, I still think they're a little bit easier to deal with on the offensive side of the ball compared to the Knicks, but I do wonder if the Knicks have really faced a defensive challenge like what the Pistons will present to them. And I wonder how different they will look going up against that. So I kind of want to see that play out, along with the fact that Detroit would have home court advantage. Not that arena necessarily is the greatest home court advantage, but I do think they're going to be pretty energized if Detroit makes it this far into the postseason for the first time in a long, long time. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I am not sure how this Cavs versus Detroit series is going to play out, but I think if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm rooting for Cleveland actually to get through here, even though there's bigger names on this team. I think I don't want Detroit to come in and push me around and maybe have the potential to out-tough me in a playoff series.
Yeah, I think I worry about Harden in the Garden.
Very fair, very fair. We've had experience there, certainly. Well, with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up, you guys. So I'll throw to you any final thoughts or final words before we sign off here.
I guess I'll go first. Just remember to subscribe, like this video, really helps out the algorithm. I just want to do kind of my episode plug here of just the latest interviews that we've had. Talked to Megan McPeak again, play-by-play commentator for USA Sports, as recording of this podcast. I think she'll be commentating. I'm pretty sure the Fever Sparks game, perhaps, or I think she might have did another game, the Connecticut Sun Aces. I think she did that game. But nevertheless, there's a doubleheader on the USA Network. We talked to Stephon Marbury, as Matt said. Talked to a bunch of other guests, Dexter Henry. And stay tuned on our channel. We're going to have a bunch of previews going up fairly soon. We're going to have an in-depth discussion on Caitlin Clark going up there as well. Just lots of WNBA content, of course, content surrounding the NBA playoffs as well.
Yeah, for everybody out there, it's a stressful time of year if your team is still in the playoffs. Win or lose, it's a game. And remember, it's supposed to be fun. So if you find yourself getting too caught up in it, go for a walk. You don't have to watch your team if they're getting blown out by 50 points in a closeout game. You can turn the TV off. Take care of yourself. Have fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Agreed. Don't destroy your high-definition television. Don't do that. Like, as I've seen with the playoff videos, it's crazy. Like, don't be those people.
sound advice from both of you. Maybe we need to start an advice segment of the show.
Right.
Especially, hey, go for a walk just because it feels good. It's good to get outside for a bit. Good to walk around. You don't even have to like walk all that fast, and it's so good for you. You all already know that. Preaching to the choir here. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. For Justin Goodrum and Allan Muenzler, I'm Matt Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Enjoy the conclusion of the second round, and we will be back on In the Lab analyzing all the action and top news in the very near future. Take care and peace out.
See you later.